Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Up? What is up, Fantasy Alarm Nation? Just get explosions everywhere, fired up. Let's go. And I'll tell you what, the explosions are warranted because it's 4th of July week, Independence time, and it's also time for what everybody wants. It's what all the people want, Howard. They want the sleepers. They want the late picks. They want the league winners, right? They want the Bucky Irvings waking up at the right time, taking you to the promised land. And there he is. Howard's awake. He's here. And that's what we're doing today. The last month, we spent 4 episodes, Wednesday, going through and putting all the players into tiers, the top dogs, the guys that are getting drafted in every league, top 40 wide receivers, top 40 running backs. Today, we're looking at those sleepers. We're looking at it from a redraft perspective. So what we did is we used the composite ADP over at Fantasy Alarm. If you're a Fantasy Alarm member, you're aware of this tool. If you're not a member, now would be a great time to get that free trial up there in the corner. But basically, we have all the ADPs from all the major sites: RT Sports, Sleeper, ESPN, Yahoo, FFPC, NFFC. And we have them all listed there so you can sort by the sites, but we also have a composite at the end that gives you a real overview of the industry. Great tool. We took that and we kind of we took the top 15 quarterbacks, 15 tight ends that are getting drafted in every league, knocked them off. Top 40 running backs, top 40 wide receivers, gone. Can't pick any of those guys. We're picking from the rest. We're doing it all today. Before we get into that, Bender, how you doing? Any big news? Anything we got to hit on? There was a little bit of news this week.
Dude, there's lots of stuff going on here. I mean, I'm gonna hold the big surprise for a little bit later. If you guys followed me on Twitter and you saw what I posted up there, I already said that we've got a big announcement that we're gonna make. But you know what? I mean, we're 5 minutes into this show, not even 5 minutes into this show, so I'm not gonna do that unless, of course, the big special announcement that you wanted to make was that you are pushing the chips all in, and not only did you purchase every rap album created by Darren Waller, but he's at the top of your tight end sleeper list now.
Yeah, that's you know I can't resist a good Darren Waller return or a good NFL player dropping a rap album. Number one on the charts is still Cole Beasley. If you have not heard 80 Stings by Cole Beasley, that's a legitimately good song. And I'm not embarrassed to say that. I'm not at all embarrassed to say that right now. Okay. Darren Waller, maybe not that great. Kadarius Toney, don't love it, but I'm just saying, folks, check it out.
Darren Waller's was sad, right?
It was sad. It was sad.
Pathetic. It was like, dude, seek help, please.
Right.
But I started looking at your Twitter timeline yesterday, and I was like, man, I don't think I can wait till Friday's show to start sifting through Coop's tweets. And I don't know if you heard yesterday's Fantasy Alarm show, but I was like, there is no mystery box. Do not fall for it when Coop starts telling you, you got to go for the upside. You got to go for the mystery box. Who am I going to take? This, schlub RB7 on this team's depth chart or Darren Waller? I was like, I want that schlub.
You already knew that I would be there. I immediately answered the question everyone was asking on my Twitter timeline, where I said, yes, of course I will be falling for Darren Waller again. No. And that's what you're doing is you're going to fall for it. Now there's kind of two arguments. One, Jonnu Smith did play a ton of wide receiver, second most wide receiver snaps behind only Travis Kelce, which creates that position for Darren Waller, obviously converted wide receiver, to play those snaps. But you have to remember that Jonnu Smith really only popped because Tyreek Hill was hurt, because Jalen Waddle was hurt. So my advice is that Darren Waller, this guy's injury prone, hasn't played in a year, probably not a top target on the team. You have to really hate Jalen Waddle to draft Darren Waller. And Howard, who hates Jalen Waddle probably more than anybody, still isn't drafting Waller. So that probably tells you just about everything that you should know about Darren Waller. Deep best ball only as your third tight end is probably the only time you should be doing that. So
I actually heard he was going to start the season on the PUP list because his ex-wife hurt his feelings so bad.
He had to take a full year off. That was it.
He had to take a full year off.
Yeah. He actually spent the entire time face down at the beach with the waves just watching over him the entire time, like in that video. Yeah. Also, the other part of that whole deal, Jonnu Smith going to the Steelers, bad news. I got bad news for everybody. I looked at our guy Arthur Smith. The thing with Arthur Smith, this happens all the time with tight end coaches that get bigger roles, Howard, is that they tinker too much with the tight end position. Both Shane Waldron and Arthur Smith started as tight end coaches, and they started with tight end rotations. Shane Waldron between Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee, and he never stopped doing that. Everywhere he went, rotations. Same with Arthur Smith. He started as a tight end coach for the Titans, became their coordinator, became the Falcons head coach, became the Steelers coordinator. All 7 of those years, no tight end ever played 75% of the snaps. Not Delaney Walker, not Kyle Pitts, not Pat Frymuth, not Johnny Smith on the Titans, not Johnny Smith on the Falcons. So all those guys are officially dead to me. Pat Frymuth, moment of silence. Thank you.
How long before Michael Pruitt lands with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Only a matter of time, bro. Once Donald Parham went down, then you know he's going to get exactly 32% of the snaps when that happens.
So bad.
Darnell Washington is in that Michael Pruitt role for now, but it's only a matter of time. So just forget about those fellas. We got sleeper tight ends for you today. We got sleepers at every single position. So what position you want to start with, Howard? Let's get into it.
Well, before I'll tell you what, I'll let you choose whatever position we start with. I just want to welcome everybody and thank you all for tuning in here. Right, I'm looking at the cast of characters over in the chat right now. Looks like ladies' night here on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
maybe ladies drink for free, right? Take a sip, whatever. We got Ann Dunn's here, Angie Hatfield's here, Auntie Coop in the house. Get those likes for Laney, people. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. It's just a good free way to thank us for what we're doing here, and it also it boosts the algorithm a little bit for us in our favor. So, and if you're watching over on X or Twitch or wherever, you know what? If you did want to venture over to the YouTube page, by all means, give us a little shout and like over there. So, Greg Martinez is there. Mile High Luke is there. Ooh, you know what? It's a new weekday today, Mile High Luke. We're gonna have some fun later on this show. We always ask Mile High Luke. He'll tell you. New weed day is the best day.
New weed day. I'm not sure I'm super familiar with that, but we'll keep rocking here.
Dude, that's my go-to move for a live draft is you just bring a new bag with you and then everybody else gets stupid.
So, I'm done falling for that trick. I've done that so many
You're not
times.
gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
No, the old banana in the tailpipe. No, none of that for me. And look, Mile High Luke, 14th round of the Big Gorilla. That's an FFPC, one of their big events they got going this year. I think it replaced the Fantasy Pros draft, which the Big Gorilla is possibly the best name for a fantasy football tournament of all time. I love it, dude. I actually asked them how they came up with it, Howard, and they said, and they were in a meeting, and they're like, let's address the big gorilla in the room. What are we going to name this thing? And then somebody just said, you just did. So, yeah, so good. So good. But I love that. But yeah, let's get in. Let's start with quarterbacks here because quarterback, we did rank the top, like everybody, in our previous show, but you can't draft everybody. And really, the top 15 or so, you can expect them to get drafted in most leagues. Like the guy that falls asleep and picks the QB 11 usually takes a second one. So we'll look at the guys outside the top 15 that should be available in most hometown leagues with like one of your last couple picks. So who you liking outside of that top 15 in composite ADP, Howard?
I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence as my first call here, and it just because, again, we've talked about this over and over again, so we might as well just throw it down one more time when we say, if you love Brian Thomas and you love Travis Hunter, and you know what, maybe you're thinking Brenton Strange does well, maybe you like De'Ami Brown, Lawrence has to get them the football. So I look at this situation. And will I say that this is a make or break year for Trevor Lawrence? Yeah, actually, I'm going to say it's a make or break year for Trevor Lawrence. We saw him show real nice improvement when they got the Doug Peterson system went in there. Then he took a step back. Now here we are with Liam Cohen, who we know did amazing work with Baker Mayfield. I think this is a put up or shut up kind of a year for Trevor Lawrence. He's got the weaponry around him. I'm in.
Yeah. The thing about the make or break, people always think that it's like, oh, it's a second year quarterback. We're going to find out or whatever. There's a lot of guys that have been around and just have not taken the step to be that elite guy. Guys like Trevor Lawrence, guys like Kyler Murray, like those dudes, we have to see some Tua Tagovailoa. Like we have to see them prove that they can now be a winner. because we know they can play football, but you have to be elite. My favorite example is Alex Smith for the Chiefs. They were winning that division every year. They were winning 12 games. They were going to the playoffs. And then they just kind of got stuck on that hump, and they finally made the move. They made the bold move to move on from a guy that was winning double-digit games every year, and the quarterback they brought in threw 50 touchdown passes in his first season, Patrick Mahomes. And then they just started winning and winning and winning everything. So some of these guys, man, even if they're being good, is not good enough. So I'm loving Trevor Lawrence. I love the thought process there. I've been harkening back to my college days, a term called the conglomerate discount. And basically what that is like, sometimes with companies, the stock price does not add up to the sum of the different parts. And if you like all those parts, you should buy that stock at a discount. That's Trevor Lawrence. And for me, that's another guy on my list. A couple guys on my list, actually. But for me, I look at JJ McCarthy, and people say, okay, I'm drafting Justin Jefferson in the first round, and I'm drafting TJ Hawkinson as a top 5 pick. And I think Jordan Addison is going to be a wide receiver too. Well, for for 2 of those guys, not 3, but for 2 of those guys to hit their value, JJ McCarthy needs to throw for 4,000 yards. You know what I mean? Like, for us to get there, we need to see that. And last year, Sam Darnold, the guy was getting MVP votes, right? The guy did throw for 4,000 yards. He threw like 35 touchdown passes. So JJ McCarthy, it could step in there. I'm much more likely to draft JJ McCarthy than I am Jordan Addison or TJ Hawkinson, because if I'm going to bet, I can make that bet much cheaper. So I do like JJ McCarthy. I do like Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I think McCarthy is a really good under the radar guy because, again, he's unproven. He's coming back from the injury. The ADP is super low on him. And listen, if Sam Darnold can turn into an all-pro quarterback in Kevin O'Connell's system, why can't JJ McCarthy? Like, the funny thing about him, Coop, is that he was in such a run-heavy scheme in college that I just don't think people know really what that skill set is. I mean, people who have studied tape and have, watched him over the years, that he's got that mobile aspect to his game. He can scramble around and extend plays with his legs. That he can throw the football with accuracy. So I dig on him as a super late round option. I've actually even put him into a couple of best ball stacks where I've taken Jefferson number 1, and then it's either Addison or Hawkinson. And then at the very tail end of the draft, I'm like, JJ McCarthy.
Right. And it wouldn't be the first time this worked at an NFL level, because we watched the Texans take Nico Collins, and his stats at Michigan were terrible. But it just turns out that when you can just run over every team to a national championship, you just do it. You know what I mean? Like, how can we be mad at this guy for not throwing more when they went undefeated? It's like, you should have gone more undefeated, JJ. So like, I have no problem with that.
Next guy I think is on both our lists here. I think we both, are big fans of just what Matthew Stafford can give you bang for your buck. I think we're both in the camp that we prefer to have the mobile QB at varying levels, right? If you don't take the Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson type guy, and you miss out on the second tier of the Bo Nix, Kyler Murray, and then you don't even get that third tier of like the Justin Fields or the Drake Mays. Well, then find yourself a pocket passer who loves his targets, and that's Matthew Stafford with the Rams.
Yeah, I saw some research lately that basically showed that in the 3 classes of quarterback, which are running quarterback, guys that run 100 times, mobile quarterback, guys that, run for like 300 yards or whatever, and then just pure pocket passers, the mobile guys definitely have a different tier of upside. The study I was seeing, it was over on Reddit. I'll have to pull it up. Not a huge difference between the pocket passers and the guys that are mobile, right? Like, it really boils down to passing. Like, so I'm fully for it. And Matthew Stafford's a perfect example of we should just call him Big Conglomerate. That's Stafford's new nickname, because you look at where Jamar Chase goes, first round. You look at where T. Higgins goes, 2-3 swing. And then Joe Burrow goes like pick 60. But and we don't care about the wide receiver 3. We don't care about the tight end on the Bengals. Then you look at where Puka Nacua goes, first round. You look at where Devontae Adams goes, 2-3 swing. Matthew Stafford goes 100 picks after Joe Burrow. And of course, he's not Joe Burrow, but the conditions that created the upside for Joe Burrow down the stretch last year, where he just was throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every game, those conditions are not that much different from what Matthew Stafford's doing. And we know this guy has a cannon. He's got the no-look passes. He's got everything that you need from a guy to deliver these balls, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the experience alone that Stafford brings to the table. Like, you're not worried about him like suddenly making stupid decisions. You're not worried about him regressing. He's won a Super Bowl. He's got elite targets in Nakua and Adams. So I'm definitely in on him. And then I'll tell you what, just to give one more example of a guy who actually does have the mobility aspect to his game, I'm going to take a shot, and I have taken a shot on Daniel Jones already. I get it. Immediately, like every Giants fan just rolled their eyes, and I felt it. But I'm going to put him there out of the pressure of New York into Indianapolis. Home games are all in a controlled environment, which is great. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, they just got a new tight end in Tyler Warren. You've got a phenomenal running back in Jonathan Taylor, and the RPO work that you're going to end up seeing from him in this scheme is going to be fantastic. And you know what? And it's a better offensive line than it was even in New York for all that time that Daniel Jones was there. I think he's a better passer than Anthony Richardson. He might not have the legs that Richardson has, but how many times have we seen Daniel Jones take off? Sure, the highlight reel has him getting yanked down by the turf monster at the 10-yard line on like some 80-yard run that he was doing. But overall, I think Daniel Jones, because this is a free pick. This is a free pick at the end of your draft. I think it's worth the upside play.
So I'll tell you what, because guys get hurt, because guys get benched, I looked at, rather than just looking at like rushing yards per game for quarterbacks, I looked at rushing yards per snap, right? To just get a good idea of like how these guys are playing. Bo Nix, a guy we love, 0.40 rushing yards per snap. Daniel Jones, 0.39. So this guy, I mean, like, if you're like looking at Bo Nix for mobile upside, this guy offers a decent amount. And I'm thinking, and that's why I love the weapons over there, is that like Gardner Minshew was throwing for under 200 yards a game. Daniel Jones has done much better than that. His career average, even with all the nonsense, is over 200 yards a game. And he's had seasons thrown for like 230 yards a game. No problem drafting a guy like this. In fact, I'm going to go out and draft one team, Howard, where I take Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, Evan Engram, Devontae Adams, and I'm going to call it Escape from New York. What do you think? The Escape from New York team. Yeah,
I think it definitely works. The all anti-New York team, sure. Yeah, I won't share that with my wife though, because then she'll get mad at you.
My last one here, and this one is probably more of a 2 QB or a best ball type play, just like Daniel Jones actually with his mobile upside, even single QB is appealing. This is probably more of a 2 QB or a super flex play, but I think Sam Darnold might be underrated here. I know that they're going to try and run more, focus on running more than what the Vikings did, but he doesn't need to do what the Vikings did to be a guy that cracks your lineup in best ball, cracks your lineup in super flex leagues. Like last year, like I said, he was MVP candidate, was obviously like had a ton of QB1 weeks. In this offense, they still have Jackson Smith-Njigba. They still have Cooper Kupp. It's going to be highly consolidated passing tree. And it's so easy to stack Darnold with one of those guys at a decent value that I do find myself having a lot of Darnold just by the nature of drafting JSN and Cooper Kupp and looking at the board and saying, oh, QB 27, Sam Darnold, the guy that's probably gonna be a starting quarterback for this team all season. I mean, it's a decent value play at his price.
Yeah, I mean, what you're looking for here is just efficiency. He's not going to be throwing the ball all willy-nilly. I know, last year with the Seahawks, Geno Smith had the 4th most pass attempts, but that was Ryan Grubb's offense. This is Kubiak and Dennison. It's a totally different scheme, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to pass. Just because you go run heavy doesn't mean that you're not going to pass. Is he going to throw 50 times in a game? No, probably not. But is he going to, can he throw 25 to 30 times a game and be efficient? Listen, I don't know anybody out there who's drafting a QB in like the 14th or 15th round that's going to complain about 250 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right. And it's just the thing about, we always say running is a luxury of the winning team. Like, I don't know how you play the Rams twice, the Cardinals twice, the 49ers twice, and think you're just going to run the ball like in all game long. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of those games you're going to have to turn it on,
Right.
So there are games on their schedule where you're going to look at it and say, oh, I'm not going to start uh, Sam Darnold against the Saints this week. But like, there's so many games on the schedule where the over under for those games is going to be like 48, 47 points. So there's definitely going to be opportunities for that guy. So those are our QBs: Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford, JJ McCarthy, Daniel Jones, Sammy Darnold from the sleeper range. Your pick, Howard. Next position.
Oh, let's just go in order here, right? Let's do the running backs.
Um,
Right. I'll throw out the first one here. So these are outside the top 40 running backs, according to the composite ADP over at fantasyalarm.com, which, by the way, Coop, give a little point there to that 7-day free trial. Up top there. Zap that QR code. Take it for a spin over there at Fantasy Alarm. Check out the draft guide, everything else that we've got over there. You're going to want to be a part of the family. Trust me, you're going to want to be a part of this family. First name on my list is Isaac Guerendo, because I'll tell you what, I know he is the ultimate handcuff for Christian McCaffrey. And I understand the fact that you don't want to pick a guy in the 10th round or 11th round who is literally only going to sit on your bench in case McCaffrey gets hurt. In case McCaffrey gets hurt?
Double McCaff tendonitis McCaffrey?
I mean, to me, I'm looking at it that way that no, I don't want to sacrifice a 10th round pick. But if I'm sitting there, let's just say I've got if I go RB heavy at the top there and I grab like 3 running backs in my first 4 or 5 picks. All right. If I do that, then in the 10th round, yeah, I don't care if I just throw down a little Isaac Guerendo, because I know that if and when McCaffrey goes down or misses any kind of time, Guerendo is the lead back in that system, and we know what Kyle Shanahan does with his lead back in that system. Guerendo was phenomenal last year when he played before he got hurt. But
right,
that's a pick I'm making.
There's a lot of these backfields. The problem you run into is you don't know who the guy is. You don't know who the backup's going to be if something happens. But with Guerendo and also Tyler Algier, you know who the guy is, right? Like this year, if Kyron Williams goes down, I don't know if it's Blake Corum or the new kid they drafted, Jarquez Hunter, right? But they got rid of Elijah Mitchell. They let him walk. They traded away Jordan Mason. They told us Isaac Guerendo's the guy, straight up. So and he's produced every time he's gotten in there. So that one I'm liking a lot. Another one of those guys that I like, and I actually think this guy could have some standalone value as well, is Trey Benson. I'm liking the things that I'm hearing about this guy. I'm liking the things that I'm hearing directly from him, that he's been studying the film, seeing where he was impatient last year. He was so excited. He basically said that every time he got the ball, he wanted to run it 70 yards for a touchdown right away, and he was too excited. And now he understands that he needs to have more patience. And he even saw a couple examples of plays where he would have had a 70-yard touchdown if he let the blocks develop, which I love hearing that guys understand that part of the game. And he also basically said, the way he talked about it, he doesn't sound like a guy who wants to play more. He sounds like a guy who's been told that he's going to play more. Not to mention, I don't like playing Dr. Fortune Teller, but if we're going to guess which guys are going to get hurt, there's certain players that have gotten hurt every year. Dallas Goedert's gotten hurt 6 years in a row. James Conner has never once played the entire season. Never one time. So the possibility that Trey Benson is going to be a guy, the starting running back for a couple games, is high.
I'll actually take you one step better here with very similar aspect, because a guy who I think is also going to have good standalone value, and then when the lead guy, or if the lead guy gets hurt in any way, he's going to pop, and that's Jalen Wright.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I like Devon Achane. I really do. And I get it, right? Dan Malin just did the offensive line rankings inside that Fantasy Alarm NFL draft guide. And he doesn't have Miami high up there on his list. And losing Terron Armstead is obviously a big deal there. But if there's anything that we know about Mike McDaniel's system, which he basically took from San Francisco when he was working with Kyle Shanahan, it's the same deal. It's literally the same offense. And, we saw McDaniel utilize Raheem Mostert when he was playing. as a complimentary standalone back. I'm not saying that Jalen Wright's due for, 20 rushing touchdowns, but he's got a role, and it's behind Devon Achane. And Wright, I think, can take it between the tackles just as well as Raheem Mostert did. And I think that we're just sitting in a good spot here right now. If we talk about fantasy football and we're talking about late round sleepers, you want guys who do have a soft path to touches, and Wright has that path to touches, and the path to open up even more is strongly possible here in Miami. So Jalen Wright's another guy who I'm using a late round pick on.
Yeah, and just like we like field stretchers in best ball, we like fast running backs, and this dude is fast. I think he ran like a 4.38 at the combine, which is cooking. So Jalen Wright absolutely can hit home runs. I'm definitely interested in that, especially now with Devon Achane could also end up playing a lot. He played the most wide receiver snaps that I've seen a running back play since 2016 David Johnson, 168. These guys might be on the field at the same time. Like if they're going to keep rolling out Devon Achane and have 168 routes run is a lot. That is a ton. So like real possibility they do a lot more two running back sets, which that'd be good news. That'd be smart. I mean, if you have guys like that, get them out there. This next one here is again a pick that people hate. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. People don't like it.
I love the picks that people hate.
People don't like it. But here's the thing: is that a lot of those guys end up being crazy values because people don't like the idea, right? Like the guy that won Best Ball Mania got crazy value on boring players like James Conner and Adam Thielen that ended up being league winners for them. So we've learned from research by guys like Nathan Yonke and some stuff that I've done on my own that the third down backs, the pass catching backs, they have the ultimate upside if they can take over the full role. But the guys that just operate on third down aren't that great in fantasy. They really aren't. Even in full PPR, they're inconsistent. They have fewer RB1 weeks. They have fewer RB2 weeks, right? The guys that have the most RB1 and RB2 weeks are the starting running backs, regardless of whether they play on third down and 2-minute drill. And there's a very real possibility that in Jacksonville, the guy that ends up being the starting running back is the guy who was most efficient running the ball last year, and that's Tank Bigsby. Maybe this kid they drafted on day 3, Bashal Tootin, comes in and he does all these crazy things. But I'm seeing Liam Cohen even talked about him and said, hey, you know what? The pass blocking schemes in the NFL are a lot different than college, and he's got a lot of work to do. And I read that, I was like, that's bad. That sounds bad. That's you know what I mean? Like, how is he going to be the every down back if he can't do the thing he's supposed to do most? And the biggest knock on Tank Bigsby is he didn't catch many passes last year. He caught more passes in college than Bashal Tootin did. Like this guy, if he's the starting back in this scheme, that's how we got Bucky Irving last year. Bucky Irving was more efficient than Travis Etienne. More efficient than Rachaad White, and Rachaad White ended up being the pass catching back and Irving the starting back. Tank Bigsby was more efficient than Travis Etienne, and he could just end up being the primary early down back. And for me, at RB like 50, I'm willing to take a shot and see if he's that guy, because guys we pick in that range, they either hit or we're dropping them to waivers. And Bigsby, we're going to find out very early what his role is. So I would love to see it. Week 1, is he the guy? Yes, we did it. No, we'll drop him. I love getting answers right away.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, I got one more guy. This guy's a little bit more off the radar for a lot of people. And he was kind of off my radar also until I started diving in a little deeper when I was doing the, writing up the articles for the coaching systems. And that's Brashard Smith from the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this is a dart throw. This is like a super, super dart throw, last round of your draft. Very few people are actually taking him. And it's because we know what the scheme is, and we know that Isaiah Pacheco is the lead back in Kansas City for Andy Reid. But Isaiah Pacheco is not really counted on all that much as a pass catcher. Can he catch pass? Yes. Is Andy Reid or Matt Nagy going to focus on that aspect? Probably not. Now, you've got Kareem Hunt, you've got Elijah Mitchell. But Kareem Hunt has certainly lost a step, and Elijah Mitchell was never, even back in his time in San Francisco, was never really leaned on in that pass-catching role. I think if we're looking for somebody to really kind of give you that complementary third down pass catching role in Kansas City, it really could be Brashard Smith. Now, watch this guy during training camp. Make sure, don't just blindly take him if and all of a sudden you start seeing the news is that he's not even remotely running with the ones at any point in that, and then you can kind of back off and you can just keep him on your watch list for waiver wire work. But, as you're heading in, if you're drafting right now with a final round pick or something in that neighborhood, if you're looking for a guy in a PPR format that has that potential, I think Brashard Smith, somebody to pay attention to, Coop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing. You got to keep an eye on camp. And Mile High Luke makes a good point that Elijah Mitchell too could be in that mix. But this is the range that we want to pull, take shots, right? Because you look at a situation like DJ Giddens, who was drafted by the Colts, Jonathan Taylor is an insurmountable object in front of him. He's never going to outright win that job. When I look at guys like Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, to me, those are not insurmountable objects. In fact, Kareem Hunt was able to play over Isaiah Pacheco down the stretch last year, right? Remember in the playoffs? In the playoffs, they were leaning on him more than Pacheco. And if Kareem Hunt can surpass you, then anybody in that role could just come out and be like, what if this guy's just special? It is a very deep and great running back draft class. So the guys that were picked in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, I kind of hold them in higher regard than some of the wide receivers that were picked in the 3rd round. And I also hold them in higher regard than the 5th and 6th round picks from last year, because it was not a deeper running back class last year. So keep that in mind with these guys going in the 4th and 5th round, that especially the 4th round run of running backs. I really truly think that a lot of these teams kind of knew they could wait on these guys, and they probably would have gone earlier in different drafts. So I'm liking him a lot. So since you mentioned camp hype and OTAs and Steam, I got to pivot to, I was going to say a different name, but I got to pivot to this name. Miles Sanders, ladies and gentlemen. Miles Sanders is
the only open a window. You're gonna crack one off like that.
I'm muting you. You're being muted. Let's get you muted here. So Miles Sanders, the only other back besides Javonte Williams, getting first team reps from Cowboys camps. And look at what every beat writer is saying. A beat writer just wrote an article yesterday apologizing to Miles Sanders, basically saying that his first projection for the depth chart had Miles Sanders as one of the very first cuts, and his new projection for the depth chart has Miles Sanders as a lock and has them making very difficult decisions at other positions, because he has been the best back in camp. He's been the best back in OTAs. People are raving about what he's doing. People are talking about the things that he was doing with the Eagles and even flashed at times with the Panthers. And the possibility that this guy is a starting running back for a team that many are saying is going to be a playoff team, and a team where if you were the starting running back, you could fall backwards into double-digit touchdowns just based on the nature of that offense. So I'm willing to take a shot there. He just goes on completely undrafted. So it's a guy that you could just put on a watch list. But keep an eye on camp, because if this guy keeps running with the ones, and Javonte Williams, the Broncos moved on from him for a reason, very real possibility that he's just never the same after that knee injury, which means that backfield is wide open. Wide open.
At High Hopes _77, Hope threw down an ew, Coop.
I saw that
emoji.
Mods, please remove. You know what? You can stay, because you're honestly probably right. But we're talking about a guy that goes pick 240, is a completely undrafted player. He could start for the Dallas Cowboys. So those are our running backs. We came up with Isaac Guerendo, Jalen Wright, Brashad Smith, Trey Benson, Tank Bigsby, and Miles Sanders. And tell you what, Howard, it's the halfway point of the episode here. Why don't you hit him with a big surprise, man? I think now's the time. I think now's the time. We got something big cooking at Fantasy Alarm, but I think you guys are going to really like it.
The Fantasy Alarm team has built something kind of mind-blowing. Listen, we already know that AI is the future, and you can go to anybody in the fantasy sports industry and you've got half of them embracing AI, and then you've got the content people who are scared of AI. We're not. And Fantasy Alarm has built something absolutely spectacular. It is the very first fantasy football AI assistant. And what you guys can do, I'm going to pop this QR code up right here because we want beta testers. And so here's what's going on now. So first and foremost, the fantasyfootball.ai is where you want to go, or zap this QR code and sign up to be a beta tester. If you sign up to be a beta tester, then you automatically get 25% off any Fantasy Alarm product that you want. All right. Draft guide, cheat sheets, annual subscription, monthly subscription, whatever the case may be, because we want you to help us perfect this. We know how good it is right now. And I mean, I'm talking about, like you're sitting there and maybe you work the night shift, right? And you come home and it's 2:00 in the morning and you've got to set your lineup for Sunday, and you're asking questions. You want lineup questions. Fantasyfootball.ai is your answer, because what that's going to do is we're talking about real-time stats, projections, analysis, and all of it is being taken from Coop, from me, from John and Pemba, James Grande, Joe Galena, everybody over at the Fantasy Alarm team. All right. So this is going to be an absolute game changer. An absolute game changer. You're still going to we're going to do our shows. We're still writing our articles. All of our work is being, encapsulated inside this AI program, and it is going to be monstrous for you. Monstrous. And it's going to be one of the most amazing tools out there. So you want to add to that, Andrew?
Yeah. What I wanted to throw out there is that people, the thing that people hate about AI and that they're scared about is that the AI, like creating its own content or replacing people with AI or doing those types of things. That's not what we're doing here. We're not firing James Grande and replacing him with a robot. What we're doing is we're taking AI and we're using it to kind of amalgamate all of our takes so that you can get the best of what we're offering and the rankings and all the things that we have, so that rather than and again, you can obviously still ask us questions. I'm always answering whatever questions we have, and we're going to do the show on Sunday morning answering questions and all that, and we're still going to give the nuanced takes. But it's a way for you to basically get our information as quickly as possible right at your fingertips and help you be a better fantasy gamer at any given time and as fast as possible. And it really is going to be a revolutionary thing that I'm pretty fired up about it, because it's going to give us more time to create the content. It's kind of like a self-recycling thing, right? Like this thing will give us more time to create more content, which it will then learn from and help share that content. It's a beautiful thing.
I'll give you the perfect example. You're sitting there Saturday night, 2:00 in the morning. You've got to make a lineup decision, and you want to know what our thoughts are about using Alvin Kamara in the the next in the Saints game the next day. You can put a comparison with Alvin Kamara and his matchup against any other running back that you have on your roster and their matchup. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull from our previews and our generators, but it's going to turn around and it's also going to say things like, Coop really likes Alvin Kamara in this matchup because, and then it's going to turn around, but it's also going to give you the Bender warns you of worrying about pass catching aspect, which is something that, I'm in on Alvin Kamara. So you're going to be able to get full analysis of matchups, individual matchups, team matchups. This is going to be for not only, it's not only for your roster, right? But this is also going to help you when you're doing all your prop picks. It's going to help you when you're doing your pick'em contests. It's going to help you when you're doing your betting. And it's going to give you everything that you could possibly want. It's going to pull from the whole world, but it's going to feature the Fantasy Alarm family here. So again, what I'd like for you to do is to join our Founders Club. We're opening up the Founders Club to 1,000 people. And again, if you join the Founders Club, hit that QR code or just go to fantasyfootball.ai. Really as simple as that.
That's how you know it's ground level, right? Because we got fantasy football.
Because we got fantasyfootball.ai. Yeah. All right. So make sure you guys join up, become a tester, work alongside us. And I'm telling you what, this is going to be monstrous for the fantasy football season. I literally cannot wait. I can't wait because what it's going to do is it's going to free me up to do more, in-depth analysis. It's going to free Coop up to do more in-depth analysis. And we're still going to be able to be here for you guys front and center, whether it's Discord, social media, on fantasyfootball.ai. This is the way to go. This is the future of fantasy football. This is definitely the future of fantasy football. Get it on the ground floor with us. fantasyfootball.ai.
Boom shakalaka. All right, back to what you guys want. We got the AI. Now let's get in on the WR, the wide receivers here. And I mean, there's been some league winners. There's been some big ones the last few years. Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, these guys coming out of the woodwork from deep in the rankings to make big things happen. Where are you looking, Bender? Outside the top 40. So we pulled up the composite ADP from Fantasy Alarm outside the top 40. So no pick. Cooper Kupp, your guy Cooper Kupp is inside. He's number 39. Can't be picked. Who you got?
Well, I went with the guy. It's so funny because I've sat here and I've talked ad nauseum about how Josh Allen's not my number one guy. Right? Outside the top 40 in ADP is the one guy who I constantly say is a difference. He's just a different player than the rest of those interchangeable cogs in that machine, and that is Keon Coleman. He can stretch the field. He's much better at coming down with contested catches than anyone like Khalil Shakir or Curtis Samuel or Elijah Moore, or you know what? Even Dalton Kincaid and Dawson. I know. Don't worry, Coop. Don't worry. I'm just saying.
You didn't mention our generation's Marquez Valdez-Scantling in Josh Palmer.
Because I think he's like a poor man's Marquez Valdez-Scantling because I don't think he stretches the field like MVS can stretch the field.
Well, that's the thing is that MVS played with Aaron Rodgers, and then people were like, well, maybe he'll be good with a different quarterback. It's like, dude, no, he played with one of the best quarterbacks ever. And it's the same thing with Josh Palmer. He played with Justin Herbert, and now we expect him to be better. Justin Herbert's great. Like, it's a lateral move for a guy that's been boring. So yeah, who's your guy?
Keon Coleman. I said it.
That's how I look at
Keon Coleman.
That's how I look at it, man. Because it's like, in people don't like to hear this, but Khalil Shakir was the top target last year. And what did that get you? 800 yards, just barely 100 targets. Like that, he's a part-time player. And if he's the top guy, it means they don't have anybody that I'm interested in. I'm sorry. His low ADOT, PPR scam, Cole. His season last year wasn't even as good as 2020 Cole Beasley in the same role. He's basically just Cole Beasley. So Keon Coleman's got the upside. And in this range, if he misses, who cares? For me, I'm going to get my homer pick out of the way here in that Stephon Diggs, if you take all the players last year in terms of receptions per game, Stephon Diggs is top 15. He was right there with Justin Jefferson. This guy was on pace. When he got hurt, he was on pace for 100 targets. Not targets, receptions. He was on pace for 100 receptions when he got hurt. And the reports are that he's out there running around, no knee brace, should be good to go. And his contract is loaded with so many incentives that every game he misses costs him $200,000. Every game, his roster bonuses are $200,000. So every game he misses is $200,000 he loses. And every time he misses a game, it makes it harder for him to hit his incentives that are season-long incentives. And we're talking like 1,000 yards is the lowest incentive for him. And if he misses those games, he can miss out on almost $7 million. So this guy's going to be out there one way or another. He's the best pass catcher on the team, no doubt in my mind. It's basically him, Hunter Henry, and Kyle Williams. You can take shots on whoever you want, but Stephon Diggs, the fact that he goes outside the top 40, I'll definitely take that shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's kind of a no-brainer, right? I mean, I feel like it's a no-brainer because, yeah, okay, fine, we're worried about the knee. He's number one guy.
Yeah.
In an emerging system. Is it a complex system with Josh McDaniels? Yes, of course it is. But we've already seen what Josh McDaniels can do with an alpha receiver. We watched him for years do it with the interchangeable cogs like you're seeing in Buffalo right now. But, I mean, remember Tom Brady with Randy Moss and Tom Brady without Randy Moss. So think about this: Drake May with Demario Douglas or Drake May with Stephon Diggs.
Boom shakalaka. Josh Allen without Stephon Diggs. I know it's not the same as Stephon Diggs, but Josh Allen was terrible his first 2 years. Straight up. His completion percentage was 52% and 58%. When Stephon Diggs showed up, his completion percentage went up to 68%. 10 points. 10 points, dude. That's the difference between getting a C and a B. Get your mom screaming at you and going on timeout, or just kind of going out to play in the backyard. That's the difference. So we're at B right now. Stephon Diggs, solid pick. What else you got, Howard?
You know what? I mean, this is a guy who I've talked about over and over. I feel like, most of these wide receivers, these late round wide receivers that I've got on my list are guys who I've been speaking about, and that's Trey Harris, right? Rookie, Los Angeles. Opportunity is really what it's about, because nobody likes Quentin Johnston and nobody likes Mike Williams, right? I was like, who's that banged up, injured guy? It's always Mike Williams.
He looked tough. He looked rough last year.
Right. So, I mean, you've got these two guys. You're basically auditioning for somebody to be the big split end that serves as a complement to Ladd McConkey. McConkey will be the number one guy there. But who's second in targets on that team? It's not coming out of the backfield. And, as much as I like Tyler Conklin, it ain't him either. They need somebody to be that big split end for them. And Trey Harris can be that guy. And, so that's another one who I'm, just using. I just did a late Charger stack in one of the Beat Howard Bender leagues, where I ended up with Justin Herbert as a late pick and Trey Harris right there next to him. And then, in like the second to last round, I took Tyler Conklin because I was like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you really think about it, Justin Herbert has not had a lot of firepower. You know what I mean? Like, an aging Keenan Allen was his best weapon for a long time. And then he got Ladd McConkey, and Ladd McConkey was awesome, but he's never really had a good outside presence split end. It could just be that he shows up and then Justin Herbert's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, Baker Mayfield got good weapons and he is now awesome. But for a long time, people thought that he was nothing. But that's just because he was on the Browns, and the Browns are bad. So if this guy hits, he could hit in a big way, because Justin Herbert's real good. I won't take a lot of time on this next player because I've talked about him ad nauseum. I suggest to go to your Google machine, type in Fantasy Alarm Michael Pittman or Andrew Cooper Michael Pittman, and a full article will come up explaining exactly why I'm in on Michael Pittman. But the short and sweet is, this is a guy that, when healthy, commanded 140, 150 targets and was wide receiver 13 with Gardner Minshew throwing for under 200 yards a game. He could very easily come out with Daniel Jones, or maybe Anthony Richardson, figures it out, but probably Daniel Jones, and go back to being a very good player. And he's going off the board at wide receiver 50. But check out the article. It's got all the information you need and more.
My next guy, again, I also don't have to spend a lot of time on him either, is Pat Bryant. Simple fact that, we're looking for opportunity. I know everybody's, kind of, leaning into the Marvin Mims narrative here, but Cortland Sutton's the X receiver in Denver. The targets funnel to him. Evan Engram's going to handle that joker role. He's going to see targets, but they need somebody else to be on the opposite side of the field. They also need somebody who, let's face it, Cortland Sutton is actually a really good trade candidate this year for Denver. And if Pat Bryant steps up in training camp, I don't see why Denver wouldn't kind of explore certain aspects of possibly trade him. He's a free agent at the end of the year. They're going to want to get something for nothing probably. And, listen, when Sean Payton starts saying that Pat Bryant reminds him of Michael Thomas, starts off at the Z receiver, turns into the X receiver, I think it's a possibility here, Coop.
My exposure numbers to Bo Nix are identical to the ones for Pat Bryant, because every time I draft Bo Nix, I draft Pat Bryant. Every time, because it's the easiest pick. Don't draft Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims, over 70% of his receptions came on screens last year. Here's a list over the last 3 years of players who had over 70% of their receptions come on screens. Marvin Mims, Laviska Shenault. End of list. So just be careful with the screen merchants. I think there's a reason they went out and drafted a guy and brought in Evan Engram. So that's it for me there. And rookies have hit big. I named a couple older guys. I'm drafting a lot of old guys. But I do have a rookie that I really like his ADP right now. And guess what, Howard? He's not on the Patriots. So
What? Wait, I really
it
thought
is
we were just
not.
going into. I was like moving into autopilot
It's
for
not.
Kyle Williams
It's
talk.
not Kyle Williams. It's not Kyle Williams because we're going for Stephon Diggs there. But again, you can take your picks on Diggs or Hunter Henry or Kyle Williams. No, I actually really am starting to like what I'm hearing about Jaden Higgins. Basically, what we're hearing from
Yeah.
camp over there with the Texans is that Nico Collins has his role. And then there's a bit of a battle going on between Christian Kirk and the other rookie they drafted, Jalen Noel, right, to be the slot guy. Basically, in college at Iowa State, Jaden Higgins was the Mike Evans split end, and Jalen Noel was the kind of Chris Godwin. So there's a battle going on between Christian Kirk and Jalen Noel, but Jaden Higgins has been running with the ones. He's been clearly the guy opposite of Nico Collins, and they lost Tank Dell. They lost Stephon Diggs. That spot's wide open. And Dalton Schultz is meh. He's not, again, we're talking about insurmountable, the most surmountable obstacle that there is out there. So for me, I think Higgins could come out and be a top 2 target on that team right away. And those are the conditions that you need to find these late breakout rookies, because opportunity is so important. We watched, because the Cowboys had CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, because they had Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb didn't really pop as a rookie. Because JSN was stuck behind Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, he didn't really do anything because the opportunity wasn't there. This guy has the opportunity, and they made him a priority pick in the second round. So it reminds me a lot of Nico Collins himself. So very interesting player at his ADP, Jaden Higgins. So those are our guys. Keon, unless you wanted to throw an honorable mention out there, we got to get to the tight end.
I threw this out there because, again, there was a nice report. And when you start seeing nice coach speak about a player that everybody's been like, this guy's an asshole, right? Like when you hear that, like all of a sudden, you kind of have to pay attention. And once again, the coaching staff for the Cincinnati Bengals have talked about the fact that Jermaine Burton has dramatically matured from where he was. And he's putting in the work that he needs to put in. And he's turning the heads of a lot of coaches. Now, I know we all love Andre Yosivas, and we would love that to be a great feel-good story. But let's face it, if you're sitting there at the tail end, and, this is probably a better best ball play than it is a season-long play, considering he's behind Chase and he's behind Higgins. But I think Jermaine Burton is somebody who, if you're in a 20-round best ball draft and you're sitting there at the last round and you're like, you know what? Like, this is the mystery box that you present to me, Coop, that I like, right? Yeah. If I see the mystery box and I lift it up and I'm like, ooh, Jermaine Burton, that's something. If I lift up the mystery box and it's Darren Waller, well, then I'm going to punch you.
Right. And yes, he was a zero last year for sure. Not paying his rent, being seen at the casino. But hey, maybe
Mile High Luke, you're so negative.
Maybe I would rather have a guy that is talented but is a jerk, because those guys can turn around. I mean, maybe he's doing the Chris Carter speed run here, where it's like it only takes 1 year. He doesn't have to be shipped off to the frozen tundra of Minnesota to make it happen. So I could see it. And again, I like taking guys like that where if either of the wide receivers gets hurt, he could step up. Like a guy like Tutu Atwell, but Jermaine Burton's a better mystery box than Tutu Atwell, because Atwell is, he's had games with 8 or 9 targets or whatever when someone's hurt, but he's been just fine. Maybe this guy just really is supremely talented, and he figures it out. Let's wrap it up quick with some tight end picks. We talked about these last week, so if you want our full tight end rankings, definitely go check out last week's episode. Those are all up right now on Fantasy Alarm with the tiers. Some of these guys, though, we didn't get to them because we didn't go as deep. So who in particular do you want to highlight from the late round tight ends?
Well, you know me, man. I've got my my eye on Mason Taylor for the Jets. It's number 2 target. You actually filled this in for me when I opened up the doc, and I was like, oh, look, he left some space for me to put in my guy. Oh, he added Mason Taylor for me.
I already put him in, yeah, because
potential number 2 target for Justin Fields. There's nothing more that I need to say. We drive this point home over and over again. Opportunity means everything. And if he's got the opportunity to be the number 2 target in the passing game for the Jets, You got to pay attention.
Right. And if they had like a Mike Gesicki or any of those like kind of pure pass catcher type guys on the roster, then we'd be worried about his usage in college, his inline usage, but they don't have anybody. They really don't. He's probably right away the best blocker and pass catcher on the team. And that's why they took him as the third tight end off the board in a class with a third tight end would probably go first in many classes. Like very rarely do you have tight ends go in the first round, right? Like he got drafted in the same spot that Trey McBride did, essentially in terms of draft capital. So definitely an exciting player, and the opportunity is so much better than it is. Like even for Colston Loveland, the opportunity for Loveland's terrible. If you put Loveland on the Jets instead of Taylor, people would be drafting him as like the tight end 6. You know what I mean? Whereas like this guy, we don't even know who truly is the most talented guy. Maybe this guy, I mean, his dad's Jason Taylor and his uncle's Zach Thomas. The pedigree's there, you know. So very exciting player. I'm in. I'll throw out one. I mean, I'm just gonna say Hunter Henry. I've already said his name on the show 5 times. So and it's
I love him too. I always put him on my list.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. He led the team in targets last year. They added Stephon Diggs. If people, you know, when I said Stephon Diggs, if you said ew, right? If you put a poop emoji in the chat, like High Hopes did, but I said Miles. Like if you think Stephon Diggs is a poop emoji, if you don't like Kyle Williams, who's going to get the ball? Last year it was Hunter Henry. This guy's very good at versus man to man and in the red area, so he is probably their number one red zone passing threat. I mean, no doubt, in my opinion. So this guy could come out and get 90 to 100 targets and catch 6 or 7 touchdowns, and that's the formula for tight end 5-6. And he goes off the board outside the top 15.
Yeah, I mean, I love him for the red zone work. I really do.
Right?
Because that's one of the things, you know, as much as I love Stephon Diggs, once you get inside like the 10, right, he's never been like a really heavily targeted guy. He wasn't heavily targeted like that in Minnesota, and he wasn't heavily targeted when they got inside that 10. Well, I mean, that was mainly because Josh Allen is a selfish son of a bitch, and he was just stealing all the touchdowns there. But you know, when you look at Hunter Henry, to me, that's like your classic red zone target for Drake May, a good security blanket once he's in there to convert.
Yep, good dude. Next one here is one I know we both like, so I'm just going to throw it out there. Chig Okonkwo. And again, we're looking for guys that get the opportunity. Insurmountable targets, right? Calvin Ridley, I would say yes. Tyler Lockett, no. Elik Ayamanar, no. Treylon Burks, Any of the other rookies they have, Chimere Dike, Xavier Restrepo, who went undrafted. Like this guy could easily be a top 2 target on this team. He also has the athleticism that we like to see, because guys that run a 4.5, 40, 90th percentile athleticism, they can break off bigger plays. There are 3 tight ends in the league who have 3 tight ends in the league who have had a season with 3 or more 40-plus yard plays. It's George Kittle, who ran a 4.52. It's Kyle Pitts, who ran like a 4.48. And then it's Chig Okonkwo, who also ran a 4.5. Like this guy can break off big plays. And with the quarterback upgrade, if Cam Ward likes Chig Okonkwo the way he liked Elijah Arroyo at Miami, ooh boy, we got a stew going.
Who was it? Who quote tweeted you on your Chig Okonkwo? Imagine if Cam Ward loves Chig Okonkwo as much as he loved Elijah Arroyo in college. Who retweeted
one of those Titans, one of the big like Titans websites turned it into like a nice little graphic. Which
that's what it was. Yeah, I saw it as a graphic for them.
Yeah, they turned it into a graphic because they're just collecting Titans hype and then just like printing it, which
that was fantastic, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So shout out to them.
All right, my next tight end, who do I have? Oh, I have Tyler Conklin. I mean, again, I don't have to waste any time on that. He completes my Chargers stack. He completes me.
Yeah, same game, because it's like, dude, here's the thing. Rookies can bust. It happens all the time. Like, and you're betting on Trey Harris very cheap. If in a redraft league, if you take Trey Harris and Tyler Conklin with your last couple picks, one of them ends up being the second target on the team. The other one goes to waivers. Like that's we've cornered the market like that so many times. It's how we got Tank Dell his breakout year, just kind of taking Tank Dell and the other guy who they took in the second round that didn't pan out. escapes me. Doesn't even matter because we got the guy. So that's the move. I'm actually doing that in FFPC drafts that go 20 rounds. Call me crazy. These are tight end premium leagues. Call me crazy. I've done this in one that where it's a league with waivers. And in pick round 19 and round 20, I take Elijah Arroyo and Noah Fant. And I'm just going to wait and see who ends up being the starting tight end for the Seahawks. And then I'm going to drop the other one because who cares about those rounds? I'm cornering the market on a tight end that a role that created George Kittle, that created Johnny Smith, the team that uses the fullback.
Right.
Clint Kubiak's coming in. That's it. It's as simple as that. And it's for formats like that are really deep that you can pull stuff like that off. Otherwise, you got to guess. But one of those guys is going to be in a good spot. And if you draft all these sleepers or as many as you can, you're going to be in a good spot too. Thank you guys for joining us today. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Make sure you check out the past 4 or so videos on the playlist for Alarm Fantasy Football because we went through all the top dogs and put them into tiers. And also make sure you're joining the Founders Club for fantasyfootball.ai, an AI solution that doesn't step on anybody's toes or try to replace anybody's jobs, one that helps us organize everything and get you the answers that you need based on our work at any time of day. And you can join the Founders Club right now to get in on the ground floor on something that's brand new. And when you do it, you get a promo code that lasts for the next 2 weeks that you can use to take 25% off any one of our products, whether it's a draft guide, whether it's a full membership, whatever you want to get, it's available right now. So hit that QR code or go to fantasyfootball.ai. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again next Wednesday with more hot takes for you guys. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Adios, turd nuggets.